you to Talat Hussain, works for CyberCloud Technologies and Technologies. CyberCloud Technologies. And I think looking at some of the recent cases that we've all seen, we're becoming more and more aware of the risks of being lacked for cyber security. So I'm really interested to hear what Talat has to say for us all.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you very much. Hello everyone. Hope you're all well. So today's workshop will be on cyber security. Looks like some of you are studying school, colleges. Anyone interested in cyber security or studying cyber security? Yeah? So if you, yeah, perfect. So, a bit of background about myself. I'm actually born and bred in Luton. I also went to school in Luton, went to college in Luton, and also went to Phishing University and studied computer science. I've been working in IT for over 10 years, and I work with various different organisations globally, in the UK, Middle East, both government agencies and public and private sector. So I've got quite a lot of insight into IT, especially cyber security and how it impacts different businesses. So I'm hoping today you can get some benefit from learning a bit more about security and how to keep yourself safe and protected online. So this is today's agenda. We'll go through the understanding of threats. We'll have a little interactive session of spotting the phishing emails, 7 essential protection steps, practical next steps, and key takeaways. And if you have any questions, there'll be a session towards the end where you can raise any questions I'll be happy to answer. So let's understand the threat. Now, who's seeing on the news about recent cybersecurity attacks and attempts? Anyone seen them? Yeah? Let's go through some of them. Now, 50% of UK businesses experienced a cyber attack in 2024. It's quite a big number. 46% of cyber breaches impact businesses with fewer than 1,000 employees. So they even target smaller businesses. 3,000 plus is the average cost to an SME after an attack. And there's 3.4 billion phishing emails sent every single day. Who's received a phishing email? And thought, okay, that's a phishing email. Let's delete the market as well. Most of us? So, how do attackers get in? Phishing emails is one of the most common ways of getting in, because it's very easy to fool somebody with a phishing email, right? Weak passwords. Now, who has a password on a post-it note stuck to their desktop? Brilliant, right? Social engineering, so manipulating people into breaking security procedures and impersonating IT staff. That's another common one. And we'll go through some of the case studies where that's actually happened. Supply chain attacks. Now, that is when you work with a vendor, trusting them to look after maybe your IT or your software, but they get attacked, which then compromises your data that they are handling. So let's look at this case study. Who's heard about Marks and Spencer's? In April 2025, they had a ransomware attack. Now, the attack method was actually a social engineering targeting the IT help desk through a third-party vendor. Now, if you look at the impact, there was £300 million lost in operating profit. That's a very large number. £750 million wiped off the market value. So as an organisation, that's a huge number. Online operations were down for 46 days. Stores reverted to pen and paper, so the till systems weren't working. Customer data was compromised. Now, what's the lesson we learned here? It's even major retailers can be compromised through supply chain weaknesses. Even though they have huge budgets for cybersecurity, there was a simple supply chain issue that allowed the hackers to get in. Let's have a look at another one. Quite a recent one actually. Jaguar Land Rover, they had an attack in September 25. Now, the attack method for them was a ransomware attack, where they locked all of their files and requested a ransom to release the files. Now that impact for Jaguar Land Rover is £50 million per week in losses. That is incredible. Production halted for nearly 4 weeks. I actually read an article the other day. They've just started to slowly start production again in UK operations. All UK factories were shut down. 104,000 supply chain jobs were threatened, and dealers were unable to register vehicles. So imagine, they've got all these new fancy Range Rovers, Land Rovers, they can't give them customers because the operations are down, the systems are down. So what's the key lesson here? Cyber attacks can cascade through entire supply chains. And finally, we've got Co-op. This was also the same with Marks and Spencer's. It was the same sort of attack and breach. It happened in April 25. Same group as Marks and Spencer's. Exactly the same. Shut down of IT systems. They attacked the back office and call center functions. Stores remained open. But I don't know if you ever noticed, if you went to a co-op store, there weren't many items stocked because stock levels were low. They couldn't stock because of the system failures. So what the key lessons say, quick detection and response can limit damage. Moving on, let's play a little game. Who likes fishing? What? Okay. Okay, can you read this email and tell me if this is a legitimate email or a phishing email?
Phishing.
Okay, what do you guys think? Give you a couple of minutes. Okay, raise your hand if you think it's a phishing email. Raise your hand if you think it's a legitimate email. Okay, phishing. It is actually a phishing email. And the reason why, if you look at the red flags, the sender is showing a service.outlook.com. That's not a Microsoft address. It's a fake URL, microsoftrenewalsecure.com. It's not an official address again. They use urgency tactics in these phishing emails. So you've got 24 hours to respond. It's a permanent suspension. Try to build fear into you clicking the links. And it's a generic greeting, dear valued customer, instead of your name. If Microsoft were emailing you, then refer to you by your first name or your surname. And this unsolicited request, Microsoft wouldn't email you asking you for payment in this way. So if you review that again, you can see the address is not a Microsoft address. You've got fear tactics, it's expiring today, dear valued customer. It doesn't seem genuine. Let's try another one. What do you reckon about this one? Phishing? So hands up if you think it's phishing. Okay. Hands up if you think it's legitimate. Well, good. Again, this is a phishing email. It's a little bit more subtle. Imagine if you're working for an organisation and you get an email from HR. You're going to give that a bit more attention, right? You're going to consider maybe this is a genuine request. So you've got emotional manipulation, creates anxiety about feedback. There's also urgency, creating that fear tactic. 48 hours to respond to personal file. And it's a generic signature, automated HR solutions. Your HR will sign off with the HR person. And suspicious process. Real HR have established processes that we follow. So in this case, if you do get an email from supposedly HR, best thing to do is speak to HR directly. Go to give them a call. Say, is this a genuine email? Is this something we need to respond to? So let's look at 7 essential protection steps. Now they aim for businesses but also individuals. So everyone has an email account here, right? Yeah. Everyone has banking apps. They have different logins to social media, like Amazon or eBay, for example. So let's see how we can protect our accounts. First one, which is key, is having strong passwords. Many times we see with businesses, the passwords are their pet's name and the door number that they live. It's not a secure password, very easy to guess. It takes somebody seconds to kind of brute force into that password. So what we suggest is, at minimum, use a 12 characters on the password, mix it with uppercase, lowercase, numbers and symbols. Unique passwords for each account. We're all guilty of it. We use the same password for multiple accounts. We're creatures of habit. We don't like to think too much. We want to be able to remember the password. So it's key that we use different passwords. Password manager, like you mentioned, very, very critical. It makes it easier to have unique passwords for various different accounts. And never share your password by email. Emails are not secure. They can be easily hacked and you can gain sensitive information from that, especially passwords. So never share your password by email. Multi-factor authentication, what is it? It's a second verification step. So to get into your email account, you have your username, you have your password. But if I know your username and password, there's nothing else stopping me from getting in. Now, multi-factor authentication comes in different forms. You can either have an SMS code to your phone, you can have authenticator apps, or even a hardware token, which gives you that second step to verify that you are who you say you are before you can have access to the systems. So, if anything today, if you've got email accounts or accounts without interface, please enable that. That'll be the first step. Moving on. Software. Now, you will use Windows, Mac, various different softwares. How often are you keeping those softwares up to date? It's very critical to keep them up to date. And the reason why is because hackers exploit vulnerabilities within systems. And if they find outdated software, it's very easy for them to hack into that and get into your system. So it's essential that you enable automatic updates, schedule regular checks, don't delay critical patches, maintain the software inventory, and replace any unsupported software. If there's anything that no longer has any updates, maybe look for an alternative solution that is up to date and kept up to date. Security awareness training. Now, this is mainly targeted to employees. 68% of breaches actually involve a human element. So educated employees can spot and stop attacks. For those of you working for organizations or have businesses, this is critical because you want to make sure that your staff are well prepared in case a phishing email does enter their inbox. And they know what that looks like and how to respond to them. So it identifies phishing emails, safe internet browsing, social engineering attacks, password security, mobile device security, incident reporting. Essentially, it gives training to your staff members to know the do's and don'ts about cybersecurity. Regular data backups. Now, we've all got personal data, company data, organizational data. Even those of you that are in uni or studying, you have your coursework, homework that you've got on your computer. Do you have backups of that? In case something happens to your laptop and you can no longer recover that. So it's essential to have backups and regular data backups. So ensuring you have 3 copies of your data, store them 2 different medias and keep 1 copy offline. So whether you're using a cloud solution like OneDrive, Dropbox, and also a USB key in case you can't access your accounts online. Access controls. Now, principle of least privilege. This gives employees only the access they need. Limits damage if an account is compromised. So what does that mean? You want to make sure that employees have all the right access to do the work that they need to do. Any more access than that, which can be compromised and used against you, you want to limit that. So you want to have the right procedures and role-based access controls in place to limit that. And also, one thing I want to highlight is ensuring that admin accounts, they're separate from the day-to-day accounts. So if any, most likely IT personnel will not use the admin accounts or even directors for the day-to-day usage. Network security. This is your firewall perimeter, ensuring that you have the right protection in place, a hardware firewall at the network edge, software firewalls on your laptops and your devices to protect from any hackers from externally. Configured properly and regular reviews. Again, the Wi-Fi, ensuring that you have a strong Wi-Fi password, or even at home, or your organization or your businesses. So it's not open to the public and no one can drive by and connect to your Wi-Fi and access all the system and services you have at home. Incident response plan. Now, we hope for the best, but we want to plan for the worst. In case your organization does get breached, we want to make sure we have a plan for quick response. How are we going to recover the systems? Have we got backups? What we are staff going to work from? If the office is compromised, if the internal network is compromised, have we got a secondary location? Are staff going to work from home? How are they going to access the systems remotely? So this is critical to have a really good response plan. So in case you do have an incident, you know exactly what steps to take to get yourself back online. Practical next steps. For those of you who have businesses and you work with different organizations, remember Marks and Spencer's? The attack came to a third-party IT vendor. I'm an IT vendor myself. I have an IT company. But it's essential that businesses know who they're working with and what security and systems they have put in place as vendors. So your security is only as strong as your weakest vendor. So due diligence is imperative before you start engagement. Make sure you do a security questionnaire. Question your IT provider or your vendors about their security and their procedures and processes. Maybe review some certification, understand the data access they're going to have to your systems, and the right to audit clauses as well. Cyber insurance. Now again, for those of you who have businesses, cyber insurance is your safety net. What does it cover? It covers in case you've got a ransomware attack, business interruption or losses, legal fees or fines, forensic investigation, PR crisis management, So your reputation is at risk. Customer notification and data recovery costs. So Marks and Spencer is claiming up to £100 million from cyber insurance, but only 64% of SMEs know that they exist. So it's crucial. Now there's also a government-backed certification scheme that helps organizations protect themselves from common cyber threats. It also demonstrates to customers, suppliers and partners that you take cybersecurity seriously. There's two levels to it. It's called Cyber Essentials. There's a Cyber Essentials Basic, which is a self-assessment questionnaire verified, which ensures that you put all the right security policies and procedures in place for your organization. And there's also the Cyber Essentials Plus, which is an independent verification that you do actually have all the right tools and policies in place as well. So that's something to look at. Now, quick wins. I want you to all stop today. So when you go up, even after this session, let's make sure we've got MFA enabled on all your email accounts and your login accounts. Let's make sure that the software that you're using is up to date. Let's change any root passwords. So any passwords that are named after your pet, please change them. And enable automatic backups of all of your data. And then this week, you look at security awareness sessions, review user access rights for a business owner, check the firewall settings, and test and make sure the backups are working. This month, let's create an incident plan, audit vendor security, implement password managers, schedule regular training, and this quarter, let's check for full security assessments, penetration testing, review cyber insurance, and tabletop exercises. Now, I've got a free offering to find out if your credentials have been compromised. If you scan that QR code and take it to our website, where you can enter your name and email address, and it will generate a report and show if any of your accounts have been compromised on the dark web. Because where does compromised accounts go? They go onto the dark web where people sell them for money in exchange for your details. So it's imperative to know that bigger information is held on the dark web. At least now you know you can put the right procedures and measures in place to protect yourself. Alright, it'll be at the end as well, so if you haven't had a chance to scan it towards the end. Key takeaways. So from today's session, I hope you learned that you are a target. SMEs are attacked just as often as large enterprises. And it's not just businesses, it's individuals as well. So just make sure you bear that in mind. People are the weakest link. So if you do have a business employee, make sure you train your team regularly. MFA is non-negotiable. Enable it everywhere, starting with your email accounts. Backups, save businesses. Make sure to test your backups and ensure they are working. Your vendors are your responsibility, so make sure to vet them thoroughly. Have a plan in case an incident does happen. An incident response plan can save you millions. And start small. Every security improvement matters. So, whether you're changing your password, enabling MFA, or setting up backups for your data, small steps will improve your security over time. And that's it. That's this QR code again. Anyone have any questions? Anything they'd like me to go into? Or?
Was the IT company that enabled the hackers to get into M&S, was that a bad player, or did it just have one employee that was the weak link?
So I believe with that incident, somebody called the IT help desk, acting as if they were working for, I believe it was Spencer, I think it was, and they got admin credentials through the IT help desk. So they wanted me to chase the place for that to stop that from happening. But that, again, it's easy to blame the IT company. It's easy, come up with the checks. There needs to be some sort of system in place where I have an MSP. If a client might calls me, we have verification steps to make sure that we are speaking to the right person, and it's not someone randomly acting as if the director, reset my password, give me access to the system. So there has to be procedures in place for that. Yeah.
Just want to add, I think one of the things Talat says, I work for an IT organisation, and we work in this kind of same space. One thing you find is a lot of organisations will have security measures. However, the staff are not trained to be able to assess them, right? So Jaguar and Marks and Spencer, Jaguar actually have a support organisation who was supporting them. So they had an external management company who was managing the IT infrastructure. And the hackers actually got into their system, and then through their system got into Jaguar. So it wasn't into Jaguar itself. And they actually did it 3 times. And Jagger actually also had their data secured in the air gapping solution. So they actually had their data offline air gapping, no one was able to access it. But they managed to get the password of the administrator and change the password.
This is it, no, exactly that. So that's why it's so important to check your records, because it was, in this case, it was a supply chain that was the weakest link, right?
I think that's the important thing. I think one thing we find is that actually the most important thing is to train the users.
Yeah.
You train the users, and actually it's quite cost effective. I'm sure Talat has a service that will train your employees, and it's not actually, it's very cost effective compared to what could potentially happen to what you're actually investing in. And it's quite simple really, but we think it's simple, but it's not. One of the examples you talked about earlier on was multi-factor authentication, like all our bank accounts. And if you have your app on your phone and you're on your computer, that computer will say, can you open your app on your phone and just log in so that it will authenticate it. And we do that without thinking, but we don't do that with the country worker. We don't authenticate and make sure those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Yeah, I wanted to ask, with the new voice of the UK law when it comes to the physical IDs that are going to be, I think, so to say, managed, how would you say that would affect cybersecurity and new cyber laws going forward?
it's a good question. I think with the great idea, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet or not, I think it's just going to prove to everyone who they really are. I don't know how it's going to relate to cybersecurity. Maybe those of you might know.
What was the question?
That was a great idea. How would that affect cybersecurity?
Well, the ID, the British.
The British ID cards.
I have a slightly different perspective. Yeah, we've all got IDs already, the national insurance number, I've got passports. But I guess I think IDs aside, I think it's all about, scammers and guys who want to get you will find a way of getting through the system, right? It's making sure that you're protecting yourself with your knowledge and the internal system is protected. I'm sure the IT companies will still have it'll still be an authentication method, right? It's an ID, it's something to recognize who you are as a person. I guess we've already got that, so it's just going to be another layer, I guess.
I think my question is that would that prone more, teaching, the average user more cyber laws, step guides to protect themselves, and would that make it easier for people in the cybersecurity world, make their jobs would I say less harder? The average person would know what to do now as to opposed to before all of that.
So I think there's different layers, right? And obviously this is Talat, and I want to take away
Okay.
there's different layers of cyber, right? So you've got, one side is the user of cyber. So, ourselves as being users, we have a certain amount of knowledge that we need to know, right? How to protect ourselves, how to protect our data. These presentations specifically around that. But the world of cyber will keep growing because there'll be different effects. But if you look at as we grow, right, data is growing exponentially, right? Data is growing more and more, people are keeping more data, that data is going to be protected, and systems are getting more complex. Actually, the world of cyber, and you've got .ai on there, will just keep growing, and that will actually ensure that there's more jobs that are available in that market rather than less jobs. Because people get more capricious in terms of how they come in. So actually that's a growing market. So if you really want to, I know there's quite a lot of students here, right? There are areas you want to get into, right? You want to look at cyber, you want to look at AI. These are the things, backup and infrastructure, they will always be there. And cloud, they will keep growing. It's actually going to be more and more requirements for cyber going forward because of organizations and guys who are bad actors are getting better at doing cyber attacks.
Yeah, thank you for that. And to answer your question, will it make our job easier as cyber professionals? I don't think it will. I think we'll always be learning about the new cyber trends and trying to inform and educate users. So our job is not going to get any easier, to be honest, with the great time. But we just need to continuously improve and understand the risks that are out there as individuals and as organizations. Yeah. Any other questions?
Have you got any advice if you're setting up your own small company with initially just you and then maybe you start getting a few employees? In terms of cyber security, what are the top 3 things you need to do, would you say?
Good question. So if you're setting up, most likely it's just yourself in the business, an organisation. First thing is to, rather than setting things up yourself, let someone else handle the IT inside for you. It might be an initial cost or an investment, but the reason why I say this is because they're experts. And as you grow as an organisation, you want to make sure your foundations are set up right. So let someone handle your IT and your cybersecurity for you. Make sure that the accounts that you have are protected with the right type of protection. Maybe set up some sort of training, cybersecurity training, multi-factor authentication, etc. So that would be my suggestion. Is rather than as a small business and funds are limited, you're trying to grow the business, work with an IT provider or someone that can advise you and guide you to make sure that you are setting things up correctly from day one, so that when you are a 20, 30, 40 user business, your IT is growing with you and it's set up right.
Yeah, actually that's a good point. There's no point. It's more expensive to go back and do things properly, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we speak of business all the time that have grown, so quickly, rapidly, but the IT systems are falling behind because the way they set things up initially at the beginning weren't fit to expand as fast as they were. So I always recommend if you are a startup, you've got students here that probably have ideas of setting up businesses. Make sure your IT and your tech is set up right from day one, so that as you grow as a business and organisation, it's easier for you to adopt the new changes.
Just to add to that, Talat, we have actually through Cyber Essentials, which is a very cost-effective assessment of your own business. That will give you an idea of how you need to do that. That will answer the questions you want to answer. Because it's quite simple. It tells you, do you have the protection? Do you need an external company to manage yourself? And I'm sure Talat will have a comprehensive service around that. But that actually gives you a very high level view. Okay, this is where I am in my IT journey. Actually, I do need to transfer because I've got a complex situation. But actually, I don't. I can use Gmail, I can protect that, my backup, or I've got storage, and I'm using OneDrive, or I'm using SharePoint, and that's fine for me. But those simple questions actually give you a good landscape. So I would recommend any business to actually do that Cyber Essentials, not the Plus, because Plus is a lot more complex, and it's looking at how you use your laptops, who's using your laptop, who's running access. That's essential. Yeah, it's a training course it's a
certification, yeah.
It's a government recognised certification, so the two levels available, Cyber Essentials, and that's a self-assessment questionnaire, right? And that's a certified body which is recognised in the industry. But that's very simple, it's a long questionnaire, but once you fill that out, that will actually give you an idea of actually where am I, do I have everything protected? And it will bring out, highlight stuff that you want to know about, you think you need to know about now, you know about that. And then on the back of that, if you feel you've got a large enough organisation, my organisation is Cyber Essentials Plus, because we need to know where we are with data, how we're protected against cyber. We might still get attacked. That goes without saying, but we ensure that we've got everything verified by somebody externally who says, yes, you're telling me this and it's all correct, and they certify it.
Is this a free course or is it something
So it's not a course per se, it's actually a certification. So let's imagine you're a law firm. The Cyber Essentials essentially checks to verify that you've all the right procedures and policies in place to protect your user accounts, your desktops, your laptops. It's a government-backed certification. I think Cyber Essentials starts from about £300 and it's valid for 12 months. Again, there's cost of implementation, implementing all the policies and procedures. Another thing that we've realised about Cyber Essentials recently is a lot more organisations are requiring this as a requirement for you to work with them. Now, one incident is law firms that have contracts with legal aid. Now, legal aid were compromised last year. It was a huge attack and affected a lot of law firms working with them. So what they've done now is they've made it mandatory for all law firms that have a contract with legal aid to at least have a Cyber Essentials policy. So, my organisation, my company has been really busy in the last couple of months to make sure all the law firms that we look after, they have this Cyber Essentials certification.
So what's the difference between Cyber Essentials and Plus?
Very good question. So the Cyber Essentials is a self-assessment questionnaire. There's a questionnaire and you have to take yes or no and give a bit of detail about procedures and policies you have as a new organisation. Now the Plus essentially is someone will come externally to now verify that the answers that you give are actually factually true. So that's the easiest way to kind of explain the two differences.
So you pay more for the Plus?
That's right, yeah, the certification of the plus is a lot more. It also depends on the size of your organisation. So if you're a smaller organisation, the cost is a lot less than if you're a big organisation.
I'm guessing that if larger companies are contracting with a smaller company, especially now we're becoming more aware that those smaller companies might be the biggest risk factor, they're going to be insisting on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just different organisations. Insurance are also now requested to at least have cyber essentials. Otherwise, your premiums are a lot higher. So it's getting pushed a lot more now. I think more and more people, businesses are aware of it, and they're trying to incorporate it within their own organisation.
You can't keep away from it. It's all over the press. Yeah, like I said, the larger organisations are more threatened by actually the smaller organisations because that's who they're working with. And they're sharing data and information, and they want to ensure that those people. So whenever we work or engage with a larger organisation, they're saying, you know, are you ISO? Do you have cyber essentials plus? Is your data protected? Where is my data? There are all these, procurement will ask so many questions just to ensure that you're credible to work with this organisation.
Yeah, that's interesting. And if you were going to start from scratch and go into a career in cybersecurity, what would you need and how would you do that? Is there a precursor course that you would do, or would you do an apprenticeship?
Yeah, actually, so I'll give you a bit of background about myself. So I always been interested in IT and tech from a young age. I think the first laptop I received, I actually took it apart, put it back together a bit, just to understand how it all worked. I was so fascinated by it. But I went to high school, studied computing, went to college, did computing again, IT management. And when I went to university, I studied computer science, which gave me a really good understanding of IT systems, different aspects of IT and cyber. And then from there, I landed my first role. I worked in an IT support company, a small company, but I was part of the support team. And from that experience, I got to experience and learn a lot from various different businesses and organizations. So I think that will be the kind of path I followed, which allowed me to get, then I set up my own company and my own business in cybersecurity and IT. Again, I know we've got a lot of students here. If anyone wants any advice, career advice, more than happy to reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you with that.
Thank you. And I'm asking questions because nobody else is, but if anybody else has a question, let me know. The password managers make me nervous because it's one password and then they've got all of your passwords. Obviously, make sure that that's a good password.
Right.
Is that common that that's an issue?
Yeah, I mean, you get various different types of password managers. You get some which are called offline password managers, where the actual database of your passwords is kept on your cloud.
Okay.
Right? So that's another one to look at if you're very conscious of that. I mean, we provide our password managers, and we obviously vet the partner that we work with to make sure that these password managers are as secure as they say they are. Because, like you said, it's one password to get in to the one, and now you get access to all your passwords. But what they do is they have security in the background. So not just a password, you have multi-factor on there, and if it detects that you're logging in from a different location, we'll ask for verification again. If you're logging in from, say you're in the Bahamas, and you're trying to log into your password manager, again, it's going to ask to verify that you are who you say you are. If you're logging in from your phone or your laptop, there's all these procedures in place, and systems in place that are working in the background to ensure that you are verified and you're giving access to the right person.
Do you think that's the same?
Yeah, I mean, we've got away with one that's, no, I mean, there have been some incidents. I think LastPass is one that was hacked. So we don't, suggest using something that has been compromised in the past. I mean, we go with something like Keeper or Bitwarden, which are a bit more accredited and have a bit more security around them.
In your opinion, do you think cybersecurity as a field has been overpopulated?
Very populated, you say.
As people are rushing to it.
They are, but there's a big demand for it as well. Look at the incidents that are happening all the time, right? Because of that, it's creating more jobs. And cybersecurity is such a broad field. You've got the technical aspects of it, your pen testers, your red teamers, blue teamers, and then you've got the procedural things, the GRC. So cybersecurity is a broad area, but it's definitely one that's upcoming as well. There's a lot of demand for really good cybersecurity engineers and practitioners.
Is there any particular area that you think you might be interested in cybersecurity?
Maybe actual
Some coding. Yeah.
So database security, that's a very good one. Because everyone has a database, so most organizations have databases. They need to make sure that their data is kept safe within that database. So that's where cybersecurity database engineers will come in to ensure that the data is kept safe. There's no way of getting accessing that data.
Do you find that company leaders who aren't necessarily IT take it as seriously as they ought to?
Good question. We have this challenge all the time. Now, one techie, directors, senior stakeholders, I found that it's shifted. I'm shifting a lot. Yeah, especially now. I think with these incidents that happen, what we see in the news, it is helping because more and more senior stakeholders are having that conversation about security and how is their data kept safe. So I think the mindset is shifting a little bit. We did have that a few years ago when I first started IT, and everyone thought IT lost, don't worry about this. Things are ticking over, it's going to be fine, we're not going to get affected, especially in smaller businesses. But in my experience, and I've seen it a lot, the smaller organizations, when they get hacked, ransomware or phishing attack, firstly it costs them thousands, and I've seen businesses not brutal, bankrupt, they have to close down because that's all of their business data compromised and can't get it back. There was one incident where a director actually had to pay the ransom in crypto to get his data back because the backups weren't working. So you can imagine, it's something that everyone's speaking about, and I think it's heading in the wrong direction. I think we need to have more conversations about data security, IT security.
And for the students in the room, what kind of salaries would they be looking at? Because I'm guessing is that something that you're interested in hearing? Yeah.
Sorry. What advice would you like? So, area in cybersecurity, you give someone who's interested in like security roles, security. Not really coding.
No,
nothing hands-on. So I wouldn't mind it, but I wouldn't want it to be like that.
So, like I said, cybersecurity is very broad. You've got the technical side of things where you're trying to enter someone's system and figure out the loopholes, or there's the GRC, the risks associated with businesses. So it all depends what your strengths are. If you don't want to get into the technical side, you get around the governance side to make sure you've got all the right policies, procedures in place. That's more policies, documents, etc. So you have the option. Cybersecurity is very broad. You can go by different options as you see fit for yourself. In terms of salaries, it varies. Depending on your years of experience, obviously your salaries will grow as well, and which organisations you work for, whether you want to work in the UK, you want to move abroad, etc. So the best way I would suggest having a look is go onto somewhere like Indeed.com, type in cybersecurity jobs, and have a look at the different range of salaries, especially starting from junior all the way to your senior levels, and have a look at what the ranges and what where you would want to go towards, walk towards.
That's good, thank you.
Can I just add something just for the students? Google do a number of free courses, okay? And these are really, really good courses. So if you go onto Google, I'll share it with you if I have the link here, but you go to Google and ask them free courses. So there's a lot of universities, a lot of organizations provide free courses for cyber, for AI. These are like month courses, 6-week courses, they're free of charge. Really, really good to get yourself certified on those, right? So if you're interested to go into the industry, and while you're studying at college or university, go and do some free courses, get yourself certified. These are free of charge. But go and Google it, go to ChatGPT, ask them. Some of these American universities do quite a lot of free courses. It's part of their social engineering and part of giving back to the community. So you can get free courses online. You'd be surprised how much really, really great courses that you can do that are recognized by employees as well. So while you're studying at college, do those courses. get onto those courses if you're really serious about going. And that will also answer the question that you wanted, where do I go, right? If you look at the contents of the courses, that will give you a better idea of which area you want to go into, what you feel comfortable. Go on to Google, go on to ChatGPT, ask some of the AI tools, they'll show you where the courses are going.
Yeah, no, thank you. Really good advice. And also, create a lab, play around with tech and security. There's loads of free labs out there as well that you can play around with to get an insight and understanding of where cyber security will go.
Thank you. I don't know whether all the students and everybody actually is aware of this, but anything that you have on social media shouldn't be in your password. So names of siblings, names of pets. There's loads of quizzes that you used to see. You don't see them so often now. But they'd ask, what's your favourite colour? All sorts of weird questions that don't mean anything, but they do. So you need to put things that aren't online at all in your passwords. Yeah,
that's very good advice. You do see that quite a lot where people are trying to extract information from you, just so they can get the right information to reset your password to get access. So a very, very good thing to bear in mind.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any other questions at all?
It's not a question, but I just wanted to find some. I was going to probably speak to you after.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I can say it. Okay. So I don't know how true it is, so I'm going to find out from someone in the field. So apparently with the rise of AI, everyone's excited, AI is pushing forward jobs. I see AI as a Pandora's box. Once it's open, there's no going back. It's a good thing to an extent, but it does a lot more bad than good. Now there's this whole thing online with it, they're creating child pornography with AI. That's point blank period, that's what they're doing now. And with that, someone was saying I don't know how true it is, but she was saying it's going to get to a point whereby it's going to be so easy to frame someone of having certain ChatGPT or AI generators on your phone with those kind of crimes. I don't know if that.
Yeah, with the rise of AI, you also get the good and the bad, right? I've seen where AI, you can create images and they look really lifelike. And
it is lifelike because AI doesn't create, it only generates.
Yeah, that's right.
So they're making faces of actual human beings with the data online.
That's right, that is what it's doing. I think there needs to be some sort of governance with AI. I think we're trying to implement that now and control the use of AI and what we can and can't do with it. Again, it's not, like you said, it's growing and we don't know what the future holds right now, but we can only use AI for our advantages for good, right? But you will get those bad actors out there that will use AI to do harm into society. But again, we need to, as individuals, to have control over what we're using AI for, and not to share everything with AI. One of the things that we have for our clients that concerns them about AI is a lot of staff don't know, but they're sharing confidential organisation information and sticking it into ChatGPT or Claude AI. Now that's become training material for that, and that could be compromised. So we are running a lot of workshops for the organisations on how to protect that, put systems in place where we stop employees from sharing sensitive information with the AI LLMs because it could ruin someone's reputation, business reputation. If certain information gets leaked. A lot of government agencies are currently working with exactly the same thing.
Are there ways to protect because say an artist is posting on social media for the purpose of getting attention to their work, is there a way to protect that from AI, which is scanning the whole internet?
In what sense? So if you're sharing online, just online platforms?
Yeah, because wherever you share online can
this is the thing with AI, it's taking data from everywhere wherever it can. So anything in a public domain is accessible to AI as well. If I can search for it, so can AI. Is there any ways to protect that? I mean, if you're an artist and you're selling your art, then having some sort of pay over from where people have to pay to access. Again, it's difficult to stop sharing your life with AI if it's online.
I think there's a lot of ethical concerns about with this AI being used to create art that's been just taken from actual artists who've actually done the painting. And that's why people are like, why is it just stealing art basically?
Yeah, actually, I've done this as well. Again, it's in the public domain. There's nothing stopping AI from getting your art and then changing a few things and sharing with others. But I don't know what the answer is to stop that for now. I think as an artist, you just need to make sure you've got some sort of protection or a paywall where people have to pay to get access to it. And it's not readily available.
It's very difficult, that is, isn't it, to know how to protect your IP.
It's more the people that post the AI art that are the issues and the actual AI.
I think you have to protect it, that's the main thing. Because when you do a search on AI, it says scanning the web. That's what it does. It scans everything, anywhere, whoever's put anything on the public domain, you'll find it. And that's what it does. So if you put it away and protect it somewhere, it's a good platform. That's the only way to secure it.
Do you have any other questions at all? No? Thank you so much, Talat.
Thank you very much.
It's really interesting.